Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this Friday, the 8th of July, 2022. I hope everybody is well who's tuned into this and looking forward to the weekend. And Muslims amongst us looking forward to Eid al-Adha. Before we get into that, I was really shocked when earlier today I learned of the passing of Shinzo Abe, who is the former Japanese prime minister and the longest serving prime minister that they've had. And he is someone who I had been listening to over the years because, you know, he came on the news and I do watch the news and I keep an eye on things. And he's someone who I took in and he seemed like a good leader of his country. And I'm really quite shocked and upset by what happened. I mean, for his life to be cut so quickly short when otherwise he seemed quite healthy, and for someone to attack him like that, and it is really sad. And so my deepest condolences go out to his family and friends and to the Japanese people. It's something I have been thinking about all day, so I do apologize. It's colored my thing a little bit that I'm doing this evening. But it is very troubling when someone just gets shot like that. And it doesn't matter who they are, no matter, you know, however great and whatever they've achieved. All it takes is one gunman. And for whatever motivations that he had, that's all it takes. I mean, you look at Mohandas Gandhi, who was, after everything he did to help India become an independent country, which also helped Pakistan become an independent country as well, because previously it was all part of British India. And then he was shot by one of his own people afterwards, after everything he'd done for his country. And other times people get killed by their, you know, by people who oppose them, but by their enemies. But it's like sometimes even their own people. I mean, you look back at when peace treaties were signed in the Middle East in the past and people were killed for it. Even though it was good for the countries, it was good for the region. It's very troubling when people get assassinated in that way. Ronald Reagan, the president of America, was very nearly assassinated himself. And John F. Kennedy was assassinated, who was one of the great presidents of America and possibly one of the greatest in the past century. It's really tragic when people do that. Whatever disagreements people have, you shouldn't resort to that. We're all looking forward to Eid al-Adha tomorrow. I'm not going to do this on Eid al-Adha because I already did my sohbet on Monday on Eid al-Adha. And I'm sure many other people are doing talks on Eid al-Adha, so I'm not going to discuss that today. But I did want to read something from this wonderful book that I've been given by Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah via his son. And this is called The Path of Peace, A Vision for a Peaceful World, the collected speeches of Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah. And I want to read something from the first chapter of this, which is based around his speech in Pursuit of Peace, 2014 framework speech, which was the opening session of the first assembly of the Abu Dhabi Forum for Peace, 9th of December 2014. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing because this is a long speech, and we do not have time to go over it, but I do want to read something from this because I think it's highly relevant for things which are going on in the world today, both the negative things and also the positive things which are going on. There's a lot of good happening as well. Now, Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah started his speech with a hadith. According to a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "You will not enter paradise until you believe, and you will not believe until you love one another. Shall I not tell you of an act which, if done, will cause you to love one another? Spread peace, and you will love one another." And I think that is such a beautiful thing at the heart of our religious tradition. The importance of spreading peace within Islam, which sadly, because of the way Islam has been misrepresented, both by extreme Islamists and Islamophobes, people often don't realize what Islam is really about. And spreading peace, working towards a more peaceful, harmonious world is very much at the heart of Islam. And as Abdullah bin Bayyah says, let us not forget that the circumstances and subject of this conference are momentous. We are here to investigate peace in response to catastrophic events in Muslim society. Death has become a game. Scenes of carnage have become commonplace, and peace and prosperity are increasingly beyond reach. Devastatingly, it seems that no other community is as rife with conflict as ours is today, in which people are using pretexts, banners, and slogans for bloodshed that is not permissible under any laws or acceptable to any sound intellect. How can we bridge the chasms that divide us, repair our social fabric, dress the wounds, and heal the heartbreak in our community? A poet once said, "The hearts, if they are broken, like broken glass, cannot be fixed. How will we extinguish the fires of war and hatred that consume Muslim youth, that kill men, women, children indiscriminately, and that destroy Muslim societies? How will we salvage what remains and restore wellness to a community that is drowning in the blood of its citizens? How do we shine a light in this darkest of nights? O long night, how I long to depart from you to daybreak, for there is nothing better than daybreak to replace you." SubhanAllah. Abdullah bin Bayyah here has been working very hard on this for a number of years, alhamdulillah, to bring this sort of consciousness of both Muslims and the wider world. And he mentioned Muslim societies here because although in the West we've become conscious of terrorist attacks which have had Muslim perpetrators, I'm not going to call them Islamic because they're not Islamic, but there's no getting away from the fact that those responsible have been Muslims, however bad Muslims they may have been. So we tend to have that consciousness in the West of that. But what is often forgotten in the West is that the number one target of these attacks is Muslims. and Muslim countries. Vast majority of Islamist attacks happened in predominantly Muslim countries, not in the West. So the number one targets of these people have been Muslims. Muslims who don't follow Islamism, Muslims that, okay, so you get some who are more religious than others, and so some will be following Islam, others will not really be following Islam, but those who are following Islam understand Islam in a more peaceful way, in a different kind of way. A way which, from our perspective, is based upon the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad and the actions of the Prophet Muhammad and how the Prophet Muhammad lived. Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah says, how can we invite daybreak and begin the journey of peace? We must answer this question together, but before we begin, we ask the Almighty, who is always near and ready to answer our prayers, and to whom we turn to solve our troubles and to save us from calamity, to grant us honest intentions, kind words, and wise counsel, and to open our ears and hearts to the truth. As he opened deaf ears and closed hearts through our Prophet ﷺ, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. The preamble of the UNESCO Constitution says, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. We must fully engage our intellects as well as our hearts in these efforts. The scholars gathered here today are performing a religious and humanitarian duty. So this is talking about a conference. Our hope is that others will heed our counsel and follow our example, rather than seek justification for oppression and wars of ignorance, incited by the inflammatory media. We seek grounds for peace and well-being as we seek refuge in the Almighty from the evil in our souls and the sinfulness in our deeds. We begin with the obvious, that peace is better for society than conflict. As scholars, our duty is to wage war upon war in order to bring peace upon peace, to wage war upon the war. We should be fighting war, not fighting a war, but fighting this idea that we must have wars, we must have conflict. We should be struggling with that, because war is what is killing innocent people. War is what is tearing societies apart. War is what is leaving a mess behind, and innocent children and women and people not involved in the conflict, who are without homes, who are without education, without water and food. War did that. So as Muslims, we should be doing our level best to avoid war and to find better ways to resolve our problems. Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah says, if our intentions are pure, this effort is the best form of worship and the greatest service to our religion. He says those who are at the conference to support these efforts are providing a great service to Islam and to the Muslim community. May God accept these most righteous deeds from all of you. Religious authorities have a particularly significant responsibility. None can stand idly as a spectator while the staggering human and humanitarian costs continue to accumulate. Instead, we must respond to this explosion of violence like firefighters who strive to extinguish a raging fire. Instead, of trying to first investigate who started it. It is a scholar's religious duty to resolve conflict and extinguish the flames of war as commanded by the Almighty, to keep straight the relationships between yourselves and make peace between them with justice. In Surah Al-Hujurat, which includes 5 commands: make peace, which is found 3 times, be fair, and fight. This final command to fight is addressed to rulers, while scholars and others dedicate themselves solely to peace and reconciliation as a religious and moral duty. We are here to perform this duty. Very important point here. He's making a comparison to firefighters, firemen, who they go into a fire to put the fire out. And what do they use? They use water to put the fire out. You don't put a fire out by adding fuel to the fire. You don't put a fire out by starting new fires. Not usually anyway. You put a fire out by putting water on it. Instead, what some people have been doing is they've been making more fire. More fire doesn't get rid of fire. Others question, well, who started all of this? Was it the CIA? Was it Mossad? Was it KGB or someone else? Stop the fire first. Then you can investigate. That's what Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah is saying. Shaykh Abdullah says, we invite all scholars to reflect upon this message and to participate in this initiative, for lessons are learned from sound statements, regardless of who the speaker of those words may be. Perhaps even someone who is negligent in knowledge and deeds, such as me, may speak words of wisdom that would benefit those who are more learned and respected. The following 3 questions have been asked about this initiative. 1, why don't we condemn those who are responsible for these conflicts? 2, why don't we address the Palestinian issue and other issues of concern to the Muslim community? And 3, why do we speak of regional peace instead of world peace? In response to the first question, it ought to be made clear that we are not here to establish a court that passes judgment or issues punishment. In order for us to be able to listen to adversaries, witnesses, and advocates, we simply focus on the call for a just and true peace. In pursuit of this, we have much to learn from scholars, as well as precedents set by the principles of Islamic law. It is well known that once the truth becomes clear to him, a judge who is appointed to settle disputes calls for reconciliation. And this is interesting because now he quotes from our sources, our Islamic sources of the past. Reconciliation in order to avoid bloodshed. We may recall the Maliki school when Ibn Asim al-Ghanati, who died in 892 AH, said, reconciliation is required in case of dispute through judgment, but not if the truth becomes clear, unless there is fear that this may lead to affliction or dispute between the kindred by blood. Khalil died 776 AH, said, and reconciliation is ordered between the righteous and those related by blood to avoid aggravating the situation. The meaning of aggravating the situation is creating a discord between the parties ruled for and against. The judge's duty is to command reconciliation so as to avoid aggravating the conflict. Someone who is neither a judge nor arbiter can only call for good. As for the second question, we do not deny the importance of Palestine and other conflicts that pose great threats to the Muslim community. However, firstly and foremostly, we seek to establish peace within our own societies, among ourselves. For if we cannot first establish order among ourselves, we will not be able to achieve any other goals. See, peace and security are a prerequisite for you to be able to have a kind of a society where you can actually deal with these other issues and make progress. Peace is fundamental. Order and stability within the society is fundamental. It's essential, for everything else is built upon it. As for the final question, regional peace is our priority out of necessity. We believe that regional peace will eventually lead to world peace, but that beginning first without our own regions is a necessary prerequisite for achieving this broader aim. Obviously, people want world peace, but the thing is, you need to have peaceful regions first, that then you can build it to a world stage. Our maxim here today is the Quranic verse, "O you who believe, enter into submission totally." The advisors to the Muslim community who are gathered here today to support this noble cause may be likened to firefighters. To stop the destruction, you're invited to contemplate the causes of the problem, to share insights, and ultimately to act. First, we will consider peace as a goal that precedes all others. We will consider the grave dangers of neglecting peace under misguided pretexts, such as sectarian and doctrinal divisions, mutual accusations of apostasy, misleading fatwas that legitimize bloodshed and the seizure of rights, and democracies and dictatorships that have led Muslim society into darkness. Delving into an examination of why these catastrophic events have occurred will lead us to such explanations as injustice or blasphemy, as opposed to faith, democracy, liberalism, and modernity. We assert that if the call for justice is a necessary part of faith, then the search for peace is even more so. This search will not change the essence of the call for justice, only its means and methods. For those who claim to have a rightful claim to justice, not all methods are acceptable or justifiable. For peace is a right that precedes all others. Everyone has a right to live free from violence and to settle or roam freely. No one can deny this. No one can deny another this right or cause it to be denied. Therefore, peace precedes all other alleged and inalienable rights, whether material or moral, individual or collective, religious or worldly. All rights branch from peace, and no branch can thrive without the stability of its core. So Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah here is highlighting the way that peace is, if you imagine a tree, peace is the trunk of the tree. All the other branches, all the other rights, whether they are the rights we have within our society or the right to justice and all of these things, they are rooted in that trunk which is peace. If something happens to that trunk, if you chop that trunk, all the branches fall. Everything collapses. So it's important, more important than the other things. And here, Shaykh Abdallah bin Bayyah highlights many sources in the upcoming pages that I am reading from to back up the points he's making here. He continues, competing religious claims, mutual accusations, and the blurring of truth and falsehood, all of which are fueled by the media, have led scholars into a vacuum of uncertainty, suspicion, and confusion. 3 questions might be asked of the crisis we face. What, why, and how? This conference will not waste time on the first question, because the reality of rivalry and warfare is obvious. None of the rationalizations or fiery speeches we hear on a daily basis justify the mutual annihilation using tools of death invented by humans. As discussed previously, we will also set aside asking why, as this question searches for reasons which must lead to causes. We know these causes are not legal or rational, and there is no benefit in exploring causes that are illegal and irrational. Instead, we quote the Almighty. You say, where is this from? Say to them, it is from yourselves. In Quran. The meaning of peace. Peace is an absolute whole peace is an absolute whole, necessarily includes some aspects and excludes others. And the inclusion or exclusion of some aspects may be debated, as explained by Imam al-Ghazali, 505 AH. The absence of war is peace, which is a minimum requirement based on the Western definition of war as an armed confrontation between 2 groups, each who seek victory. Warfare destroys absolute peace. Whether peace can coexist with hostilities is open to discussion. Peace may be defined as a condition where psychological and spiritual tranquility prevail in society. This permeates individual relationships as well as relationships between individuals and groups. Peace results in the guarantee of the 5 necessities laid out by the Sharia. The preservation of religion, life, wealth, honor, and intellect. Peace permeates language, behavior, and interactions and excludes violent language. Abusive behavior and unjust treatment. In a peaceful society, everyone benefits from solidarity and collaboration. Peace creates an environment Peace creates an environment of love and security and fosters civil engagement. Above all, it requires reconciliation with the self before reconciliation with others. Its value and blessing can be fully appreciated only by those who have experienced war. As Ammar bin Mad Yathrib said, he who experiences war finds its taste bitter and is left harsh and rigid. Or as Al-Ashar said, they tasted the breaths of war. And how hateful is war after peace. As the philosopher Spinoza once said, peace is not the mere absence of war, but the union of souls. His phrase, union of souls, teaches us wisdom. As words of wisdom are the lost property of the believer, it implies the establishment of values and virtues that represent the peace in the characters of people, which brings about tranquility and serenity and manifests itself in solidarity, collaboration, empathy, and engagement. Based on these definitions, we can summarize peace as that which avoids war and seeks friendship and love. Peace can therefore be divided into dynamic negative and positive situations that are reminiscent of Kant's classifications. His book, Perpetual Peace, which is still taught in some European countries, begins with a chapter about the negative aspects of peace, followed by a chapter devoted to its positive aspects. We begin by addressing the question of how before responding to why. In the same way, a firefighter who tries to extinguish a fire does not concern himself with how it began. Extinguishing the flames of war is our urgent duty. Logic dictates that the answer to why, which will come at a later stage, may be cancelled out by the answer to how, just as it may facilitate understanding it in order to remedy it with the purpose of an everlasting and perpetual peace, as laid out by Immanuel Kant in his book, which he wrote over 200 years ago, when Europe was in a similar state of perpetual war. I'm going to leave that there today, and I think we'll return to this another day because this is really at the heart of Islam and what, as Muslims, we're supposed to be aiming to achieve on this earth, within our lives. We're not here to be making violence. We're not here to be making more troubles and problems on this earth. We are here to make the earth a better place. And that's true of all humans, whether Muslims or Christians or Jews or Sikhs or Hindus or Buddhists. We're living on this earth to make it a better place, so that when we leave it a little bit better than we found it. We're not on this earth to create injustice and trouble and war, conflict. And reacting to injustice in the world by creating more injustice, how is that ever a solution? My dad always said 2 wrongs do not make a right. They'll never make a right. But we have the answer within Islam. The answer is in the Quran. The answer is in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, who left the Arabian Peninsula a lot more peaceful and united. We should learn from that example. And of course, also from people who have made great contributions to making the world a more peaceful and better place in the centuries since. I hope you think about these words, and I look forward to talking to you again about it, perhaps next week. I wish you all a very good Eid. May Allah bless you and your families. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a very good evening. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.